Good morning, everybody. How are we doing? I am Scott. That is Bo. There is no co-pilot in the co-pilot seat, but if I get off this screen fast enough, you'll be able to catch a glimpse of the cricket. And she's gone. How are we doing? Sorry about that. How are we doing? Today is May 10th. 2022. It is a Tuesday in Tampa, Florida. It's early in the morning. I don't know exactly what time it is. I guess I could tell you. It's 7:11. Yeah. Tuesday, May 10th, 2022. Otherwise known as my 56th birthday. Yeah, I'm old. I'm old. Well, shit happens. I received an email yesterday from Christian, otherwise known as Twinny McTwins. He was given a timeout on Twitter, so he wanted to send me some information, a link to something for me to point out and look at. And I thank you very much for doing that. I'm not entirely sure what he got a timeout on Twitter for, but hey, Elon, he's there to save fucking First Amendment, right? Fucking stupid people. Jesus. Which billionaire will save us next? It's John Galt. Fucking stupid people. Jesus Christ. Anyway, sorry. Let's get off of me. Bye for now. See you later. And let's jump to this. This is what he sent me a link to. Now, just so you knew, well, we'll talk about that in a second. This is the most American thing that has ever happened. And this is on a channel called Cait Johnstone. I don't know if it's her husband or not, but he's reading her article, which is here on Caitlin's newsletter. She's sending you some news. Now, after looking into this, I decided that this is the most American thing that I've seen, I don't know, in a little while at least. And you say, well, Scott, what do you mean by that? And I'll tell you exactly what I mean by that. I mean, here we have an alt truth teller pushing for Big Pharma's money. You say, Scott, that's crazy. That's Cait Johnstone. She would never do that. No? Let's unwrap this little fucking this burrito, shall we? And let's dig deep inside and see what kind of meat it's made from. Is it hamburger? Is it horse? Is it dog? Let's find out. The most American thing that has ever happened by Cait Johnstone. We are once again witnessing history being made, folks. Today, in the year of our Lord, 2022, we get the great privilege of bearing witness to the single most American thing that has ever happened. The Biden administration has asked top Democrats to decouple the federal government's COVID relief spending package from its much larger bill for funding of the U.S. proxy war against Russia in Ukraine, because one of these two things is too controversial and contentious to pass quickly. Guess which one? Politico reports congressional Democratic leaders reached a bipartisan accord to send $39.8 billion to Ukraine, not $33 billion, to bolster its month-long battle against a brutal Russian assault. And that deal is now expected to move swiftly to President Joe Biden's desk after Democrats agreed to drop another one of their top priorities, billions of dollars in pandemic aid that has stalled on the Hill. The Ukrainian aid Ukraine aid could come to the House floor for a vote as soon as Tuesday, today, according to a person familiar with the discussions who spoke candidly on condition of anonymity. That nearly $40 billion worth of proxy war funding eclipses the paltry $10 billion in COVID relief funding that was being debated in Congress and is in fact well in excess of the already massive $33 billion sum requested by the White House. President Joe Biden and top Democrats agreed to a GOP demand to disentangle a stalled COVID-19 response package from a separate supplemental request for military and humanitarian aid to Ukraine so the latter can move more quickly, roll call reports. At the same time, House and Senate Democrats have upped the price tag on the Ukrainian package by $6.8 billion above Biden's initial $33 billion request. Democrats proposed including an additional $3.4 billion for food aid and $3.4 billion more to replace U.S. military equipment sent to Ukraine, according to a source familiar with the offer. I defy you to tell me anything more American than Washington decoupling relief for its own citizens from its proxy war fund because it wants to make sure the proxy war fund actually passes. It's almost too perfect. You couldn't come up with a better summation of the U.S. empire in a nutshell if you tried. Taking more money away from needful Americans because congressional opposition to helping them was putting too much inertia on Washington's games of nuclear brinksmanship is the single most American thing that's ever happened. There's actually real poetic beauty to it if you look close enough. The government, which runs a globe-spanning empire, is dubious about the need to help its own citizenry recover from an economic flattening pandemic, but throws its full bipartisan support behind a proxy war which threatens the life of every living organism. That's it. That's the whole entire point I wanted to make here. It's so insane, you'll cry if you don't laugh. And we'll always have these little moments of laughter, even if these psychos get us all killed. And that's it. That's her entire article. And you can give her money for that over on Caitlin's newsletter. She's so pissed off because the $10 billion in aid to the people who are needing it the most here in the United States, they're not getting that $10 billion. But instead, an additional $3.4 billion in food aid is going to fucking help feed the people in Ukraine. That, according to her, is the most American thing she's ever seen. Ever. Would you like to know a little more about that fucking humanitarian aid that's going to help Americans who are suffering due to the pandemic? Would you like to know a little more about that? I thought you would, which is why I made this video. Here's an article from U.S. News talking about U.S. Congress plans nearly $40 billion more for Ukraine, and the COVID aid has to wait. That's right. The aid that's supposed to, a stimulus package, right? That's supposed to go help Americans who are suffering. U.S. congressional Democrats agreed to rush $39.8 billion in additional aid for Ukraine, two sources familiar with the proposal said on Monday, easing fears of a delayed vote would interrupt the flow of weapons to the Kiev government. The House of Representatives could pass the plan, which exceeds President Joe Biden's request for $33 billion as soon as Tuesday. And Senate leaders said they were prepared to move quickly. A proposal for additional COVID-related funding, which some Democrats have wanted to combine with the emergency Ukraine funding, will now be considered separately. Same numbers, 3.4 billion for additional 3.4 billion in humanitarian aid. Food. Feeding the fucking people of Ukraine. Hopefully feeding some Nazis. What's the situation with the food insecurity and prices here in the United States? This is the news. If you just look up food insecurity on the rise in the U.S., this is the headlines. These are the news. Food insecurity increases the risk for diabetes. Asian New Yorkers cite food insecurity as top concern. U.S. to address soaring global food prices. U.S. to spotlight war caused food insecurity at 2 UN events. That's right, blame fucking Putin. And of course, don't expect the huge rise in food prices to slow anytime soon, says Bank of America. Food insecurity is such a big fucking deal here in the United States. President Joe Biden will convene a White House conference in September focused on ending hunger and improved nutrition across the nation. The last time the White House hosted a conference focused on food insecurity was more than 50 years ago, when President Richard Nixon hosted the White House Conference on Food, Nutrition, and Health in 1969. Expansions in food stamp programs and the school lunch programs and the creation of the SNAP program, Special Supplemental Nutrition Program for women, infants, and children, to improve nutritional and improved nutritional labeling. It's a big issue. It's a big fucking deal. It's a really big deal. And instead of helping us, oh, I'm sorry, that's in September. That's in September. Which means they're not doing jack shit to help people starving in America because they're deliberately jacking up the prices. They ain't going to do jack shit until September. However, according to the stories here, U.S. News, and of course, Miss Alt Media, Cait Johnstone, they're going to be spending $3.4 billion immediately, right now, to give food aid to Nazis. Does Caitlin mention any of this? Does Caitlin mention any of this? No, she doesn't. She focuses on the $10 billion. The COVID aid has to wait. That's what she's focused on. What is the $10 billion? Senate punts $10 billion COVID aid until after Easter amid stalemate over border policy. April 7th, 2022. Multiple senators confirmed Thursday that they are delaying voting on a bill to pour $10 billion more into pandemic programs until after the 2-week spring break. A decision top health administrations have said further threatens the country's ability to fight the virus and prepare for potential surges and variants. The move comes days after Senate Republicans stopped the legislation from advancing because they aren't guaranteed an amendment vote on reinstalling Title 42, the Trump-era policy that allows for the expulsion of migrants during the fucking pandemic. The Republicans are playing politics with health of all American people, charged Senator Elizabeth Warren. Pocahontas, blocking COVID protection money is a ticking time bomb for public health. So Democrats will come back and try to get the money we need, but this is not a good day for the health of the world. Oh, okay. Well, that's the same fucking bill, right? That's the same package. And just like Pocahontas said, they got it back onto this bill, and now it's been separated from this bill. What is this bill? Congressional negotiators settled on $10 billion for COVID-19 tests and treatments. What? April 4th, 2022, Washington. Senators unveiled a $10 billion deal to further fund the U.S. response to the coronavirus pandemic with money repurposed from earlier aid rounds, well below what the White House originally requested for vaccines and therapeutics. The package will allow the U.S. to purchase supplies, including more tests and vaccines that the Biden administration said would be needed to continue to fight the virus. The $10 billion pulls from money used in earlier bills passed by Congress rather than representing new dollars, new spending. That's one source for that. Here's another source, Politico. The compromise reprograms billions in unused money from other coronavirus bills to deliver funding for therapeutics, testing, and vaccine distribution. That's fucking money going straight to the manufacturers for the tests so we can get those numbers up again. And that's right, Pfizer selling it for $40 to Medicare and Medicaid, which, by the way, are going to go bankrupt and then be privatized when it only costs less than $5 for them to make, otherwise known as price gouging. $10 billion more to big pharma and big business. And Caitlin Johnstone can't fucking believe we're not going to give $10 billion more to big pharma and big business. While food insecurity is worse than it's been in going on 60 years in this country, and at least according to Bank of America, it ain't going to get any better anytime soon. $3.4 billion to feed people in fucking Ukraine, Nazis, humanitarian aid, and the people of America have to sit around and fucking suck it up just while they make the economy scream. That, boys and girls, is the most American thing I've ever seen. And, of course, a fake, controlled opposition, alt-left journo weeping because Big Pharma's not going to get an additional $10 billion as soon as they wanted it. Rona truly is the gift that keeps on giving. Oh, Jesus God. Now, you say, well, Scott, yeah, okay, yeah, maybe she's just too busy to do the research. Well, you know, she gets paid a lot more fucking money than I do to do the research. So you know what? Her product should be better. If that's the issue. Because it really didn't take too much fucking effort to see, okay, this bill was attached, which means this bill existed, which means you can look up the bill and see what it was, that $10 billion. She doesn't mention anything about $48 billion to arm Nazis and nothing to feed children. Biden's craven priorities, which I covered on May 6th, 2022. It's actually, I mean, it's kind of worse. I'll post links to these down below. It's kind of worse because they had originally wanted $22 billion, and I'm sure it'll get back up to that, $22.5 billion, right here. They originally had asked for $22.5 billion, and they wanted Congress to push it promptly to give it to big business and big pharma. The difference is the $12.5 billion that's missing is what's cut off from literally paying Pfizer $40 a pop for a product that costs less than $5. Thank you, Bill Gates, for letting us know that in that recent interview you did at the 92nd Street Y, which I covered, by the way. But the $40 per fucking shot that they are that they're charging the government for something that costs less than $5 per shot to make. They wanted 12.5 billion of it to ship out to give to USAID, the CIA's USAID, so they could fucking give it to poor people all across the fucking world. The mRNA versions of these things. And that's all in here. It's all in here. Either this one or this one from Politico. It's all in here. And I'll post it and you can read it yourself. See, his USAID is the main agency helping facilitate the vaccinations. And the 12.5 billion that's missing is the 12.5 billion we're supposed to pony up. We, the United States of America, were supposed to be funding at least 25% of the global effort. That's just our fair share. That's our fair share. 12.5 billion to give shots in the arm for something that doesn't work to poor people in Africa or Latin America someplace who don't want it in the first goddamn place. But that's what we're supposed to do, but we're not going to do jack shit to help people who are starving here in the United States until September. And that's when they're just going to sit on their fat, rich asses and talk about it. That's the most American thing I've ever seen. Well, that and killing MLK or JFK or Malcolm X or RFK or starting illegal wars for profits, lying to us to get to those wars. Hell, I could say 9/11 is the most American thing I've ever seen. Of course, Cait and Johnstone won't say that. She's got mouths to feed, meaning hers and her hubby's. They got vacations to take. They don't work on their birthday. I thank you very much, Christian. Twinny McTwins. That's him on fucking on Twitter. He'll be back soon enough, hopefully. Cross your fingers. My uncles were twins. Identical twins. Donnie and Danny. Good men. Their lives were very intertwined. They born and raised in Lynchburg, lived in Lynchburg, only was out of Lynchburg for work projects and go to war, you know. They went to war together. They came back together. They got jobs working in for the same telephone company together. They joined the union together. They got married together. They raised families together. One lived on one side of the fucking city, and one lived on the other side of the fucking city. They played golf together. They grew older together. And then eventually, when they were old enough, they retired together. Both enjoying those pensions from those unions, and both having gotten to the upper middle class, or at least a decent middle class, both turned Republican together and started bad-mouthing unions together while enjoying those union pensions. They watched Fox News together. There's a lot to be said about twins. It's no wonder Dr. Mengele wanted to study them so much, so badly. Anyway, there you go. That's the most American thing that ever happened, according to Cait Johnstone. You talk about missing the bigger picture. There she is. There she is. But she is a journalist stalwart. She is out there, man. She's the flagship of the alt community. And that is the most American thing I've ever seen. Take care, folks.